Last week on Aquatic Adventures, we did paddleboard 101. I had a great time doing that video. I had a great time paddleboarding. It's one of our favorite things to do. You can get out there and, folks, you can really explore some places that very few, if anyone, ever gets to see. I'm glad you came along on that adventure, and we're going to have many more, including this one, and folks, some stuff you just won't believe when we get there. Paddleboarding, great exercise, a great way to enjoy an aquatic adventure. So let's get to the next video. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Aquatic Adventures with John. Hey, before we get into this video special, I want to tell you guys we got some really interesting news coming up next week. We've got a big announcement, and I want you to tune in. What we're going to do is introduce one of the team members, the most important member of Aquatic Adventures with John, in addition to me. So next week will be the big reveal. But for now, we're going to start talking lobstering. Everyone loves lobsters. We think of them as being out in the ocean, swimming around, little lobsters. But when we really see them, they look a little bit different. And then, what is the purpose of catching a lobster? To enjoy it. That's right, we love our lobsters, if you can afford them. Well, I'm not the kind of guy who can go down to the store and afford a big old lobster, Well, I could buy some lobster bisque, but there's one way we really like eating them, don't we? That's right, we like them cooked, steamed, seasoned, they're delicious. But again, if you can't afford lobsters, what's another way to get them? Well, you go to where the lobsters are at. And that's what this video is going to be about. Lobstering. So let's get into it and take a peek. Alrighty, well, we decided we want some lobster. Well, instead of going to the store, we're going to go right to the sea. So first you have to find out where the little rascals live. And then you're going to need some tools. And what tools are better than others? Well, there's actually, for lobsters, only a couple tools that really work really well. And so the most popular is the net and tickler. Really, in order to catch a lobster, you must tickle it. Can you believe that? Actually, the little lobsters get down in nooks and crannies and they hide. So use the tickler to kind of tickle them out, and then you catch the lobster in the net. And boy, they don't like being caught, so it's its own little challenge. But you'll need this other tool, the old lobster gauge, because you're not allowed to keep them if they're not big enough. So get yourself a handy gauge, and I prefer the kind with the beer opener on the back. That's how I roll. Anyways, this is how the lobster gauge works. You place it from the head and back, and if it's longer than the gauge, that is the lobster's body, you're in luck. Then you can take it out of the water. But folks, before you even start, before you even get there, before you start warming up that pot of water and getting your butter and garlic ready, you're gonna need a lobster license. Don't forget your license. If you don't get a license and you get a visit from these guys, no matter what state you're in, the Fish and Game warden is law enforcement, and they will make your day. And another vital requirement is to have a good lobster team. You're gonna need a boat, some friends, and get ready to have a good time.
I don't know if it'll see them through the water.
So the Aquatic Adventures team put together a boat, some tools, we got our licenses, and we headed to where the lobsters reside. We pick up live in action with Al. Oh boy, to get to this place, folks, we spent all day looking for places where lobsters would be hanging out. We couldn't find them all day long. We boated around here, boated around there, had a good time. And 100 feet from the dock, I look down and see a tire. I'm like, dude, there's a tire in the water. And we halt the boat, and Al dives in and grabs a couple lobsters out of this big tire. And while we're looking, we see an abandoned lobster trap 100 feet from the dock. And we're like, good golly. Now here you see Al here. He's got a lobster in this abandoned trap. He floats to the top. He's measuring it up with the gauge, not to take it out of the water. Got to stay perfectly legal, you know. And I tell you, it was interesting. We were laughing, having a good time, and there were people who gathered on the dock over there, and they were watching to see what all the commotion was about. And it was a good time. I think we were in the state of Puerto Vallarta, by the way. Anyways, here we are having a good old time, and Al, he just jumped overboard. At first, no mask, or was it a mask? A mask, but no air, and just went down and started wrestling with these things with his hands. And he said, no, I'm gonna need the hookah, and the hookah's like it's not like scuba, it's like a scuba mask, but an air supply, but it has the hose attached. So he's not snorkeling, he's not scuba, it's not snuba, it's a hookah. So there's the trap, you can see it under the water. It was like a home to a lot of different crustaceans. It had lobsters, it had lobsters, it had crabs, it had all manner of stuff in there. But Al was down there wrestling. He didn't have a weight belt, so he's having a hard time staying down, and it was a struggle, folks. The struggle was real. And we were, like I said, we were all laughing and just having a good time with this. Al was working his butt off. It was definitely worth the price of admission. Anyways, we ended up pulling up several lobsters. Several weren't big enough to keep. Several were big enough to keep. And so we did. And I've got to tell you, it was worth the workout. Well, I'll tell you, that was a great day. And it's funny, no matter what aquatic adventure we're on, we always work up a good appetite. So in this case, it was great that the adventure was about satisfying that appetite. Getting us some lobster, checking out some new scenery, and I want to thank the great sponsors who made that entire trip possible. So let me show you how it ended. You know, it started with the hunt. And finally, we had Al in the water, you know, just working away for us. It really was hilarious, folks. The man was brave going at lobsters. They were pinching them, crabs were biting them. It was one heck of a good time. But eventually, we wrestled our keepers back to camp and we put them on ice. We put them on ice and we got set. We had to take the heads off, repair the tails, get them all set up. And then onto the barbecue they went, with, of course, a separate hamburger. We had to do surf and turf, have some drinks, sit around, just watch these babies go as the sun set. It was one heck of a day. And I'd love for you guys to join me on these adventures at some point in our history. But I tell you what, you can have your own adventure, whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's clams or oysters, lobsters or crabs, freshwater, saltwater fish, it doesn't matter as long as you're out having an adventure. It really does. You know, back at camp, we sat around, we had music, we drank, we laughed. Al told stories, I told stories, we all told stories, and it was fabulous. It was a good team to put together. Right? As the sun set, it was just beautiful out on the water, and we were right on the water with our camp, getting everything prepared. A beautiful day as the sun set. And folks, I want to remind you, next week, one of the great stars of the lobster adventure is going to join me here. and talk about aquatic adventures and where we're going next and what it's all about, how it started, and what a great time it all is. Again, folks, I want to thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button. Please share the video. We've got the internet address up above. Share the video. And if you want to be notified as soon as videos come out, down below, there is a little bell. That's a notification bell. And finally, I want to thank the great sponsors of the show. We have people who are sponsoring these adventures. If it wasn't for them, they couldn't happen. I'd be paddling back and forth in a kiddie pool in the backyard, getting in physical condition. And that's really what it all comes down to, folks. Good health, physical fitness, and having a good time, as much as one can expect. So thank you for joining me on Aquatic Adventures, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.